So welcome to our demo on the basics of Bash shell commands. So of course, we need to start up our virtual machine that's running a real Linux operating system. So this is assuming you've already set it up right from the previous videos. So let's go ahead and get this started. Just a reminder, some useful tricks for these virtual machines. You can take a snapshot. So snapshot's going to give you basically a little bookmark of where you were at with that virtual machine state. So if you're, doing a new lab assignment or maybe you're testing out a program, whatever you're doing, right? It's a good idea to take some snapshots. It's just going to ask you to do a snapshot name, just so you can differentiate them. Give it something descriptive. You can even provide a description itself. And that's going to give you a bookmark to that exact state, that exact point in time for that virtual machine. So really, really useful. You can restore them to specific snapshots, so you can go back to different bookmarks, right? So in case you want to start fresh, or you don't want to start fresh, right? You want to start at a certain point in time. Take those snapshots. Usually, when I power off the machine as well, I always like to save the state. So I like to keep, that previous state. So when I hop back on my virtual machine, it's as if I never turned it off. So just some tips there. Use your snapshots. For display, right? I'll leave it up to you. There are some things you could do with copy and paste with clipboards, but I'm not going to show you that as well, because I want you to actually, try typing in these commands without, copying them from some kind of resource. So highly encourage you do this from scratch, right? When you're typing things in. It's easy to go, online and just copy the answer, but that's gonna pretty much eliminate the entire learning process, right? Every time you type in a wrong command, every time you mess something up, you're actually learning. That's something I learned as a programmer. Is when I introduced bugs into my code and I had to go back and find those. That's where I did most of my learning as a software engineer. It's not when I got the code right on the first try. It's every time I got it wrong, because it's something I would remember for the future not to do. Avoid that. So make sure, right, to embrace this learning process. Make mistakes. Google when you need to. Try things on your own first, of course. So let's go ahead and start this machine. I know I went on a little tangent there, but let's see. Yeah, anything regarding like the display, if something's weird with it, if it looks too small, right? Definitely encourage you to go online to Google that stuff. So let's see. The default password, if you didn't change the username or password, it's change me is the password. CHANGEME, change me. All right, so I like to keep the defaults because I'm a little lazy. So I'm gonna go to my apps here, this bottom left icon, and then I'm gonna click on terminal. And there you are. I have my terminal open. So as you can see here, it has the username VBox user. It has the host name, the name of this virtual machine sandbox, and then I am at the home directory. So if I run, or actually I'll save that command for the next demo. But yeah, I am currently in my own home directory. So let's run some of those commands that we saw previously. Let's run the date command. There you can see exact date and time. It even gives me the time zone. So I know this might not match up to my computer time. That's because we're running, this is UTC, completely different time zone. All right, let's see. Let's run the df command. So every time I'm done typing in my command, I hit the enter key to execute it. Makes sense, right? So here I can see how much available space is on my different disks. Of course, these are virtual disks. Let's see, let's run the top command. So remember, that one's like our task manager on Windows. And here you can see top command, and it's in real time. So you can see those numbers change. So it's saying, oh, I'm using 4% of my VM's CPU, 2%, 3%, and then the memory, it's staying around 7% for this particular process. Notice each process has its own ID. A lot of these processes say root. These are background processes. These are processes that make sure that your VM, your Linux computer is working correctly. The ones I'm actually running, notice that the user is VBox user. And those PIDs are a little bit higher, right? So yeah, those are taking up the most resources right now because that's really the only program I'm running. These background processes use very, very little resources. So yeah, about 7% of my memory is being used by the GNOME terminal, the GNOME shell, I should say. The terminal is using around 1%. So these are technically two different programs. This is the bash shell and this is the bash terminal. All right, so those are some commands right there. Let's go ahead and see how I can tab into commands, see the command history, and maybe move the cursor. So first I need to exit the top commands because the top command is like a running process. In order to show me what's going on, it's actually running a program. So how do I exit it? You hit Control C, just like that. Now I'm outside the top command. Now it's ready for me to type something in. If I go back into the top command, you'll notice it's kind of stuck there. I can't type it. I can type things in, but it's not actually interpreting those as commands, right? Notice that weird question mark symbol. Until you see, whoops, until you see the prompt right here, then it's ready for you to actually type into the command. It's prompting you to give it some instructions. When you don't see the prompt, then you cannot type in instructions. That's something to remember for some of the future labs. I've definitely seen it before where they're like, oh, I was typing in my commands, it wasn't working. It's because the prompt wasn't there. It wasn't ready for you to type something in. Keep in mind, if you have a process running here, let's say I run top, but I don't want top to close, you can always open a new session here using this tab right here. So just like you have tabs on Google Chrome, you can have tabs on your bash shell, your bash terminal. So here now I can type in date. I can do echo. There's a variable here, user. User is pointing to the name of the current user, which is VBox user. We'll talk about variables more later on. Just a little preview there. So yeah, that's some of the basic commands. So if I want to cycle through the history, I can use my up and down arrow keys. So notice, here's another. So some commands I was running. So this, a little preview for kind of the end of the class. I wrote a script. So I wrote a series of commands that would help me grade your assignments, the assignments for this class. So I was able to grade the assignments really quickly by running this script. So let's see. So yeah, date, I ran that one, echo user. And if I go all the way down with my down arrow key, then it goes back to the empty command, right? It's waiting for me to type something in. If I go to echo user and maybe I want to change it, right? Let's see, echo home. I can move the cursor around with the left and right arrow keys. I need to make changes, right? The home and end keys, really useful. So I don't want to cycle through a really long command right to the end. So you can actually hit the end key. You've probably never used those before, maybe very few times. Home key will send you to the front, end key to the end. So really useful when you're typing commands. So we'll hit enter. And there you go. If you want to copy a command, maybe you wrote a really long command just before, you want to make some changes to it. You could use the up and down arrow keys, of course, but you could also do Control Shift C. And then if you want to paste it, Control Shift V. And there you go, it's pasted. So it's not exactly the same, right? Because remember, if I hit Control C, it's gonna, exit whatever is happening and move on to the next prompt. So that's copy paste. We went through the history. Last thing is the actual tab, the autocomplete. So we don't know that many commands yet. So this is one that we're not familiar with. But let's say I wanted to open up my downloads folder. As long as I type in the first few letters, I know that there's no other like folders with that name, so I can hit the tab key. And there we go. It auto-completed the name of the folder for me. CD downloads. So we'll talk about what CD does in a second. You can already kind of guess. But yeah, you don't have to type in the full name of file names, folder names, script names. Use the tab key, save some time. This might seem like really obvious, right? I can tell you in the first year of working with Linux, I did not know there was a tab key for autocomplete. So I was typing in everything, copy pasting, until a senior engineer said, hey, try the tab key. He was really nice about it, fortunately, so it didn't embarrass me or anything. But yeah, don't feel embarrassed for the stuff you don't know, right? It's hard. It's hard to know what you don't know as a beginner. So hopefully, I'll kind of point you in the right direction, let you know the pitfalls, the common mistakes, so that you can avoid them. So that's it for this demo. It's pretty simple. Arrow keys, you're typing stuff in. You don't have to memorize buttons, interfaces, right? It's a very straightforward interface. Type in commands, you can modify them a bit, right? With the keys, you can access them, some of the older commands using the history. If you want to clear it, you can type in clear. If you want to exit this, you can hit exit. And so it closed that tab, right? And took me back to the first tab. So yeah, this is still running there. All right, so remember, if you don't see the prompt, it's not ready for you to type in command. So Control C to exit this process. That's it for this demo. If you have any questions, right, feel free to reach out.